The Gore struck a new Russian ship in the Black Sea, and partisans blew up a factory in Tula. Zelensky announced new air defense systems for Ukraine. The Poles are demanding additional air defense means from NATO. Russian drones entered the country not by accident. They were found to have additional fuel tanks. The US wants to revive the Jackson-Vanik amendment and stop all trade with Moscow. And a revolt is being prepared in the European Parliament against Ursula von der Leyen. The scandalous leader of Krupa was released on bail of 20 million, which she ultimately never posted. In the studio, Yana Kochkurova, and more news that people in Ukraine are talking about today. HUR fighters struck the Russian fleet. In the Black Sea, the MPSI B-07 vessel, worth about $60 million, was damaged. This ship joined the fleet only in 2015, and the enemy has only 4 of them in total. Ukrainian intelligence operatives skillfully struck the enemy ship with domestically produced combat drones. The target was the command bridge, where key navigation and communication equipment is located. The strike was accurate. The enemy's electronic intelligence equipment was destroyed, and the ship was sent for lengthy and costly repairs. New agreements to strengthen Ukraine's airspace. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Ukraine is to receive additional air defense systems. In his evening address, the head of state said that he had been in contact with Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal. He is expecting a full report from him on the outcomes of the meeting, particularly regarding new air defense systems for Ukraine.
There are results regarding new air defense systems. Our partners are ready to continue funding the Pearl program for the purchase of American weapons for Ukraine. We are also negotiating for additional funds to produce our own Ukrainian weapons, including long-range drones, so that Russia feels what it means to face a response to war.
The Gerbera imitation drones that fell on Polish territory were upgraded by the aggressor country with additional fuel tanks. According to the publication Militarniai, the basic version of such a drone has only 1 tank in the tail. But in the devices that reached Poland, another one was found in the nose section. It is made from a multi-layer flexible polymer. Such soft tanks are lightweight, take up minimal space, withstand vibration, and are widely used in military aircraft manufacturing. According to a Ukrainian analyst known as Colonel GS, it was this modification that enabled the drones to cover a greater distance and cross the border. EU. And as it turned out, one of the Russian drones that attacked Poland crashed right on the territory of a military unit of the armed forces, just a few dozen kilometers from Warsaw. The incident occurred in a new town near Pilica in the Grodziec County, Masovian Voivodeship. According to Polish media, the drone turned out to be a mock-up, the Gerbera model. It did not cause any damage, but the very fact that it crashed onto a strategic military facility in close proximity to the capital sparked a real stir. In Warsaw, they openly say this is not a coincidence, but part of systematic actions by the Russian army. The Kremlin is testing the defenses of Poland and all of NATO, using drones as an element of hybrid warfare. More details about the attack by the aggressor country on Poland in the following report.
Oh God.
This is the beginning of World War III. NATO countries have never experienced an attack like this before. Or is it just a provocation? There are many different reactions to the attack by Russian drones on Polish territory on the night of September 10th. They differ drastically, but the fact remains the fact. For the first time, the Russian Federation has openly attacked a NATO country with strike drones. According to Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, a total of 19 Shahed-type drones entered their territory. Preliminary reports say that only 4 of them were shot down. The others were likely suppressed by electronic warfare systems. At the same time, it is known that one of the drones managed to fly about 300 kilometers across Poland. However, the official report states that all targets were destroyed. And this was despite the efforts of almost the entire eastern NATO flanks aviation, including a radar reconnaissance aircraft.
The Polish side claims that they shot down all of them. At the same time, even NATO tanker aircraft took off, for example, from bases in Italy in order to refuel the fighter jets in Polish airspace that were involved in repelling the drone attack.
Meanwhile, the raid did not go unnoticed by civilians either. The remains of the downed drone destroyed a residential building, and there were also reports of UAV debris falling in the middle of the streets. In addition, thousands of people were unable to depart from Polish airports.
Operations at 4 airports were suspended, including Warsaw's main hub, the Chopin Airport. Warsaw Modlin was also affected, as well as Rzeszów-Jasionka, which is the closest airport to Ukraine, and Lublin.
But even more shocking than the very fact of the attack on NATO is the reaction that followed from the alliance members, and from Poland itself. Yes, Ukraine, which essentially became the target of an attack by 24 strike drones, called this raid a provocation, citing the absence of casualties.
Most likely, we are dealing with a large-scale provocation, but at the same time, we are consulting with our allies. I am in constant contact with the NATO Secretary General. This is the first time that Russian drones have been shot down over the territory of a NATO country. And that is why all our allies are taking this situation very seriously. We have not recorded any casualties, but of course the search for the downed drones continues.
Deep concern has also been expressed by NATO leadership. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stated that the alliance will defend every inch of its territory. However, a full assessment of the incident is still ongoing. In the United States, where consultations began immediately after the drones crossed the border, they have so far decided to remain completely silent publicly.
Mr. President, what about the Russian drones that entered Polish territory?
Belarus, on the other hand, did not remain silent. Despite the fact that most of the drones entered Poland from there, the local Minister of Defense unabashedly stated, "If it weren't for us, Warsaw wouldn't have had time to react at all, so you should thank us for warning you, shouldn't you?"
The Polish side responded promptly to the drone incursion by scrambling its standby forces.
However, the main question remains: what was this all about? According to analysts, with such an attack, Russia is trying to achieve several objectives at once. First, to show Europe what war really is, and that it is much closer than they think. Second, to test how NATO would respond to a possible incursion, in particular in the area of the Suwałki corridor.
According to Belarusian sources.
Also, a drone attack on Poland is meant to prompt Europe to be less determined in defending Ukraine's interests in future negotiations. After all, it is the Europeans today who are resisting the idea of the US and Russia imposing unconditional concessions on official Kyiv. Moreover, analysts believe that if the plan doesn't work, it could be repeated.
It's not for nothing. On the territory of the Karelian Peninsula, Russia is building the corresponding military infrastructure, which will directly threaten members of the North Atlantic Alliance in Finland. It's not for nothing. At present, a series of actions is taking place on the territory of the Republic of Belarus. Undoubtedly, all these preparations, all these military maneuvers are primarily aimed at practicing certain actions that will be directed in the future, either against the Baltic countries or against all of Poland. Therefore, undoubtedly, an escalation is indeed taking place.
It seems that NATO also understands the growing risks. Therefore, given the rather sluggish rhetoric, they nonetheless decided to urgently mobilize Polish reservists and strengthen the air defense in the east of the country.
The European Union announced it will allocate additional funds for Poland's procurement of ground-based air defense systems designed to counter such threats. We're talking about artillery, ground-based air defense, armored vehicles, and so on.
Ukraine, for its part, has once again stated that if the aggressor is not restrained, the escalation will continue to grow. Therefore, pressure on Moscow must be increased. President Zelensky also promised, if necessary, to help Poland organize a population alert system and to share effective methods for countering Russian drones and missiles.
In the United States, they recalled one of the most powerful pressure tools from the Cold War era. After Russia's attack on Poland, Republican Congressman Joe Wilson introduced a bill to reinstate the amendment. The Jackson-Vanik amendment, which effectively blocks any trade with countries that violate human rights, in this case with Russia, which he directly called a terrorist dictatorship. President Obama and John Kerry mistakenly repealed this amendment during the misguided reset with Moscow. This encouraged the war criminal Putin to occupy Crimea. Trump will fix this, Wilson stated. For reference, the Jackson-Vanik Amendment was in effect for over 30 years and was primarily aimed at the USSR, which did not allow its citizens to emigrate. It blocked Soviet goods from accessing the American market and became a symbol of Washington's pressure on the Kremlin. It was repealed in 2012 under the Obama administration and replaced by the Magnitsky Act. Now, the return of the amendment would mean a complete and unconditional ban on any trade with Russia at the federal law level. In fact, Congress has started talking about returning to the heavy artillery of sanction policies that once forced the Kremlin to make concessions. In the European Parliament, a rebellion is being prepared against Ursula von der Leyen. As Politico writes, two political forces at once, the far-right group Patriots for Europe and the left, the deputies have announced that they are gathering signatures to initiate a vote of no confidence in the presidency of the European Commission. The official reason is her latest State of the Union address. But there are many more grievances. From the lack of transparency in the European Commission's work and controversial trade policies to a weak response to the war in Gaza. Today, the EU is weaker than ever due to the President's constant failures in dealing with the most pressing challenges, according to the statement by Patriots for Europe. According to procedure, a vote of no confidence is only possible after a 2-month pause from the previous vote. If the legal service deems the initiative admissible, debates and voting could take place as early as October.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
The former head of the Khmelnytsky Medical and Social Expert Commission, Tetiana Krupa, was released on bail of 20 million hryvnias. But no one has actually paid this money yet. Neither Krupa herself nor any third parties. This was reported by Hromadske, citing Vax spokesperson Olisia Kemeris. According to her, the court's decision was made on September 4th after 11 months in pre-trial detention, which nearly reached the legal limit. 12 months is the maximum possible period of detention. The investigating judge changed the preventive measure to bail. Krupa had 5 days to pay 20 million, but the money never arrived. The SAP explained that the issue of a possible appeal of this decision will be considered after reviewing the full text of the ruling. In the fall of 2024, law enforcement caught Krupa in multi-million-dollar schemes. Nearly $6 million in cash, in various currencies, were seized from her family. During the search, the official tried to get rid of part of the money. She simply threw 2 bags out the window, which contained $500,000 in greenbacks. The State Bureau of Investigation also documented evidence of money laundering through business projects. A high-profile murder in the USA. On the university grounds, a MAGA activist and Trump supporter with an anti-Ukrainian stance was shot. Charlie Kirk. He was fatally wounded during an event on the Utah Valley University campus in the city of Orem. While Kirk was speaking under a tent where he traditionally debates before an audience, a shot rang out. According to witnesses and video recordings, the shot was fired from a building located in the city. At some distance from the event site, possibly from the roof of one of the buildings, Kirk was wounded in the neck area and was immediately taken to the hospital, but he did not survive. That same day, law enforcement detained a person who was initially considered a suspect. But later it was established that this person had no connection to the shooting. At present, the real shooter has not yet been found. Utah Governor Spencer Cox called the incident a political assassination. The death of his associate was reported. U.S. President Donald Trump. After offering his condolences to the family, he later also commented on the matter from the White House office. In addition, earlier US President Donald Trump reacted strongly to the brutal murder of Ukrainian woman Iryna Zarutska in North Carolina. He is convinced that the murderer deserves the highest punishment, the death penalty. Meanwhile, Elon Musk responded to the idea of Intercom CEO Yogan McCabe, who announced the creation of grants for murals, featuring images of Zarutska in American cities. McCabe allocated $500,000 for this, and Musk doubled the amount, promising $1 million. The controversial blogger Andrew Tate also joined the initiative, contributing $1 million as well. Thus, the tragedy of a Ukrainian woman who sought safety in America has turned into a story that has shaken not only the United States, but the entire world. Finland is preparing to make serious decisions regarding support for Ukraine. Prime Minister Petteri Orpo called an emergency meeting of the leaders of all political parties and parliamentary factions. The main topic is how exactly the country will join the security guarantees for Kyiv within the coalition of the Resolute. And it seems that the Finns themselves are facing new problems with the aggressor country. The Kremlin has claimed that supposedly Finland wants to attack Russia. We have gathered information about this in our report.
New threats and accusations. The Russian dictator is preparing for yet another war.
Russia has always achieved results and has always emerged victorious from all difficult challenges.
Well, not always exactly. But for now, let's not mention the so-called great achievements of the Russian army. In the past few days, Putin's cronies have been making statements about a possible war. The former ALCO president Dmitry Medvedev has decided that Finland is preparing to attack Russia.
After joining NATO under the guise of defensive measures, Helsinki is pursuing a confrontational course, preparing for war with Russia, apparently setting up a staging ground to attack us.
Moreover, according to him, Russia supposedly by law deserves reparations from the Finns for World War II, claiming that they once paid too little thanks to the goodwill of the Russians.
He likes to reinterpret history just as Russia in general likes to rewrite it. If we talk specifically about any potential reparations, there were extensive and repeated consultations between Russia and Finland after the conclusion of World War II, during which the significant term Finlandization prominently emerged, a situation where the Soviet Union notably did not demand any territorial concessions whatsoever from Finland or reparations, and in return they received a promise not to join NATO. But obviously the situation changed over time.
Following the alcoholic Medvedev with his aggressive statements, the head of the State Duma Defense Committee, Andrei Kartapolov, also made statements. According to him, Helsinki's actions are allegedly extremely irresponsible, and the country's leadership is turning Finland into a hotbed of fascism.
Gennady is conducting extreme and utter lawlessness in the political arena, specifically within Gennady's current leadership, and essentially, it is progressively becoming more like the nation of Ukraine than a true, genuine hotbed of fascism. I feel very deeply and genuinely sorry for the rural people, those individuals who have truly been through so much hardship and who absolutely do not deserve the unfortunate fate and the challenging situation we are currently in right now.
And Kartapolov also stated, or rather threatened, that Russia is ready to defend itself at any moment and has everything necessary to do so. They have it all.
Dmitry Medvedev, a prominent figure, has indeed addressed this particular subject on previous occasions, making his stance and insights known. He has spoken extensively about this matter, providing his perspective and contributing to the ongoing discourse surrounding the issue. His prior comments and remarks on this topic have been well documented and widely discussed, indicating a consistent engagement with the subject at hand.
If we recall the well-known phrase often attributed to Churchill, that the fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists, then the Russians are vividly emphasizing the current ideology of their state, running around accusing everyone left and right of supposedly supporting Nazi or fascist ideas. Of course, there are no concrete facts behind these accusations, but this kind of hybrid psychological aggression against Finland, against Poland, against the Baltic countries, is further confirmation of the Russian Federation's long-term plans. They have no intention of stopping at Ukraine, and in many respects, Putin's plan is to restore Soviet influence over Eastern and Northeastern Europe.
These statements indicate that Moscow is sharply escalating its aggressive rhetoric against Finland, the new NATO member. And all the accusations against it are simply a continuation of the Kremlin's well-known tactic of attributing aggressive intentions to its neighbors, thereby justifying its own militarization.
If the Finns do not respond proactively to various kinds of provocations, if the Finns let the Russians get away with things, both hybrid attacks and information psychological ones, or possibly in the future, Finland may face cases like we see today with Poland, specifically the incursion of a large number of drones, which can only be described as a deliberate plan, then the Russians will try to carry out concrete physical operations on the ground in order to seize Finnish territory.
Russia has long been building up forces near the Finnish border. New tents, shelters for fighter jets, and warehouses are being constructed. In this way, the Kremlin is gradually preparing the ground to put pressure on Finland.
Ukrainian partisans have penetrated deep into the enemy's rear. In Tula, the Ukrainian partisan movement ATESH delivered a powerful blow to the Kremlin's defense heart. Saboteurs blew up a communications tower near the Shiglovsky Val plant, an enterprise that manufactures air defense systems, rapid-fire cannons, and weapons for the war against Ukraine. As a result of the operation, the plant was left without communications. And this is not just an industrial facility. It is here that the Pantsir-S anti-aircraft missile systems and Kornet anti-tank missile systems are assembled, which the Russians use in attempts to destroy Ukrainian soldiers. ATESH also states that they previously conducted reconnaissance of this plant and have now moved on to active operations. And they hint that this is just the beginning. In the Sumy region, border guards accomplished what seemed impossible. They neutralized a K-500 guided aerial bomb dropped by Russian aircraft. This is an extremely complex and deadly risky operation. Ammunition of this caliber can destroy everything around it, and any mistake would have cost lives. But the sappers of the 5th Border Detachment acted swiftly and professionally, removed and successfully neutralized the Russian bomb. Drones save lives. The Ukrainian military is constantly being equipped with new types of ground robotic systems. But what wonders are they capable of? More details coming up.
Combat logistics, evacuation, demining, reconnaissance. This is not a complete list of the types of ground robotic complexes or GRCs. In the 4th year of the war, it's hard to imagine how we would manage without these machines. Ukraine has managed to successfully resist Russia. Previously, GRCs were ineffective, but now they truly save the lives of Ukrainian soldiers.
You can fight for a long time, you can fight in different ways, but life, unfortunately, is very fragile and incredibly valuable. And in order not to pay a high price in the war against the enemy, we try to use drones. It's cheaper than fighting with people.
The main goal of using GRCs is to save human lives. Right now, for infantry to move on the front line in the gray zone is almost 100% suicide, because this is the territory of FPV drones, which can wait for a target even around the clock in sleep mode. GRCs handle the delivery of ammunition and supplies excellently.
Their task is to carry out logistical and evacuation operations. This includes delivering supplies. We work at the position, deliver supplies, and evacuate the wounded. With the help of these robots, we save the lives of servicemen, because even if one is blown up by a mine, we only lose metal, not a person. That's why they really prove themselves in action, performing at 100%.
One example, the logistics NRK robot can transport up to 200 kilograms of cargo. For instance, it can evacuate 2 wounded soldiers. It operates at a range of 20 kilometers. That is, it can deliver or pick up cargo at a distance of 10 kilometers and return to the operator. This ground drone is capable of incredible things. It operates in tandem with an aerial drone which serves as the lynx's eyes.
It hit a mine and lost 3 wheels. On a single wheel, it still managed to deliver supplies to the position without any issues. No questions asked. In other words, it proved itself very well in this work.
Currently, 47% of all UGV missions are dedicated to logistics and evacuation tasks, about 25% to engineering, mining and demining, approximately 12% to combat, and the rest to special missions. Lynx, cockroach and termite are far from the full list of UGVs used on the front line. Currently, Ukraine has many specialists in this sector and is a world leader in UGV production. Because UGVs are being tested on the battlefield in real time, all shortcomings are immediately addressed and improved.
The speed and ingenuity of Ukrainian engineers are impressive. Many teams quickly adapt to the needs of the front. Some solutions are still at early stages, but others are already showing significant potential for integration into more complex architectures. Ukraine has already established itself as a key player in combat robotics. Mikita Makushin, head of Milrem Robotics.
In just the first quarter of 2025, the Defense Procurement Agency purchased over 8,000 robots. In total, this year, the state plans to order 15,000 UGVs, which is 15 times more than last year. Reducing losses among combat personnel and accomplishing combat missions are tasks that Ukrainian UGVs handle exceptionally well.
That's all the news for this hour. You'll find more information in our next broadcast. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and share your comments under this video. See you soon.